the half. And they got the ball down there. It's now setting up a 4th down. They're going to call a timeout. They're going to run just one play. Are they going to kick a field goal? No, they're not. They're going to go for it. And the Cardinal defense is up to the task. They're going to stuff it. And then, wait a minute, Cliff Kingsbury called a timeout.
Yeah, these are the situations that behind the scenes, obviously there was something going on between the communication on the field and the players that they didn't like, and they wanted to kind of talk about it. And what it winds up doing is it costs Cardinals a touchdown.
Cost them 7 points, so it's 21-7 at the half. It's 21-14. And the 49ers are driving again. That's Dante Pettis. That's the 4th passing touchdown of the night for Jimmy G, the Thriller dance on Halloween. But the Cardinals aren't going away. We got a rookie-to-rookie connection. This is Kyler Murray to Andy Isabella. Lewis, it's 88 yards.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a throw that is on a rope, and Isabella does the rest afterwards. You know he's got sub 4.4 speed. You see, he just takes it the distance. Look, the Cardinals' future is bright if they can get some big men on the offensive side of the ball on the offensive line.
They would convert a 2-point conversion. It's a 3-point game. Richard Sherman says, what's going on here? So now they need their offense to come up big for them. And maybe the most impressive thing that Garoppolo did all last night was converting one after another 3rd down on this drive.
Just think about how early that ball right there was thrown because he was getting pressure in his face. You saw how he faded away from it after he threw it.
That throw was to Emmanuel Sanders, who had 7 catches for 112 yards. This is another 3rd down play, a 3rd and 3. They give it to Tevin Coleman. Kingsbury is going to challenge the spot. I'm not sure what it is he thinks he saw that would suggest they were going to overturn it. Instead, the Cardinals lose a timeout. 49ers now just need one more 1st down to run out the clock. 3rd and 9, they're going to do it.
Yeah, this may be his best play of the night, that being Jimmy Garoppolo. Look how he steps up in the pocket, makes him think he may try and run for it. He never was going to run for it. He's just looking to dish the football. I mean, that's A-plus quarterback play.
Big night, Jimmy G. They win again.
He's pretty good. I don't know why people don't think he is. He makes some pretty gutsy throws out there, doesn't he? Goodness gracious. I can't say enough about just how he brings us along, just whether it's on the sideline or in the huddle, and, the leadership that he has. But, the fire that he, has too, he gets the people going. And just to see him, make those plays and, allow him to get those people off his back that, say, hey, maybe he's not, what we think he is. But, everyone in this building or in our locker room knows what he is. It's fun to see that.
Jimmy Garoppolo was 28 of 37, 317 yards and 4 touchdowns last night. And through 18 career starts, he's 16-2. According to Elias, that makes him the 5th quarterback ever to win 16 of his first 18 starts. Dan Marino, Roger Staubach are among the others. So and earlier in the program, we talked at great length about his performance, about their defense. I want to ask you this question. Are the San Francisco 49ers, as you look at the teams they've beaten, they're 8-0. They can beat you a variety of different ways. Are they the best team in the NFL?
I'm not going to get you all the way there. I'm not even going to say the best team in the NFC because I still think that is the Saints, but they're pretty darn close. And when you have a defensive line that can stop the run like that and can get after the quarterback, that's going to travel regardless of elements, regardless of location. That's going to be a big piece of it. And then when you get Jimmy G playing like that and an offense that's going to play to his skill set, look at the plays. Them sneaking Emmanuel Sanders in at fullback, giving him an easy touchdown throw. It was just such a great job. And now I'm getting involved with the backs and tight ends. They've got Tevin Coleman. They've got Kittle. They've got a lot of weapons there. He threw more balls to the backs and tight ends than he did his receivers. And that is a credit to Kyle Shanahan, not just as the head coach, but as the offensive coordinator.
Man-to-man, as a quarterback, who's your best friend? Backs and tight ends.
I've said for the longest time, my observation in watching sports is the really great teams can beat you regardless of how the game is played. And we had a great stat earlier a great full screen that Hembo put together earlier this morning. Their last 3 wins, one of them is a shutout. The next one, they ran the ball for 200 yards. Last night, Jimmy Garoppolo threw it all over the place. They can beat you any way you want to play.
Absolutely, and give John Lynch a ton of credit for going out and getting Emmanuel Sanders. He was one of the best. I was in Denver for literally a cup of coffee in an offseason, right, a couple months. But Emmanuel Sanders is one of the best receivers I've ever been around. That's going to be a huge pickup for them down the stretch.
And so, Lewis, let's talk about that, the team-building piece of this, and particularly the job that Kyle Shanahan is doing as their coach as well.
Yeah, from a team-building standpoint, the acquisition of Emmanuel Sanders to a young wide receiver core, I mean, it's perfect. He's going to rub off on guys like Deebo Samuel and kind of teach them some of the tricks of the trade. Kendrick Bourne, the guy, Bourne identity, the guy who, I mean, it's going to help them. Jimmy Garoppolo, I thought a couple of years ago when he was acquired by John Lynch, I thought this may be one of the best transactions they've had in the history of the organization. And people are like, what? They have Steve Young. If he plays like that, you're going to be looking at it as one of those types of transactions. And then overall, big picture, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, the defense, new defensive line coach, Robert Saleh, Richard Sherman. They've got a bunch of things going on right now that are all coming together, and they're all rowing in the same direction. They're going to be there. If he can play like that, if Jimmy can play like that, they'll play the Saints, the Eagles, the Cowboys. We'll debate who the other team's going to be in the NFC Championship game, but they'll be there.
You know, we will always think, I think, of Garoppolo as having been Brady's backup, obviously, and Jacoby Brissett was there as well. If you just think about it, those three guys were in one quarterback room at one point. Right now, the three of them are 21-2.
Who?
They're 21-2 sitting here right now. Those three guys, they were all in the same quarterback room once upon a time. Okay, that's where we begin. Niners remain unbeaten. Then there's this very bizarre story. Speaking publicly for the first time since he ended his holdout, Trent Williams revealed yesterday that he's been dealing with a cancerous growth on his head. He says the Redskins first treated him 6 years ago. He said he was told the growth was, quote, minor. Then this offseason, they encouraged him to get further treatment, and he was diagnosed with a rare cancer. And in a lengthy conversation yesterday, he says he doesn't trust this team anymore.
I mean, the lump continued to grow over the years, and I mean, it was concerning, but it was no pain involved. And, you know, if I'm being told by the very people who, you know, I put my career in the hands of, they're telling me that I'm fine, then I'm fine. You know, that's how I looked at it. They kind of underestimated it, and it was far more advanced than they had realized. And I don't think they realized how long it was there. It's a lot of emotions. I'm not gonna lie and say it wasn't. It's a ton of emotions, you know. I mean, I almost lost my life. I even got to a bag. Like, seriously, like, I almost lost my life. Like, it was no, you 30, coming off 7 straight Pro Bowl, and the doctor tell you to get your affairs in order, it's not gonna sit well with you, you know, and it still doesn't. And it's still, even thinking about it's a scary thing to go through, you know. Think how you can describe to your 9-year-old, 5-year-old that, you know, daddy might not be here. So it's tough.
Now, the Redskins yesterday released this statement. The Washington Redskins have requested that the NFL's Management Council convene a joint committee with the NFLPA to review the medical records and the medical care given to Trent Williams. The Redskins continue to prioritize the health and well-being of our players and staff. Due to health care and privacy regulations, we are unable to comment further at this time. We look forward to the joint committee's results. There was a surreal nature to this entire day yesterday. We tried as hard as we could to put together a representative piece of that lengthy conversation that he had sitting there at his locker. There's a lot of this that we're not going to dive into here.
Sure.
We don't know the particulars of the way this was diagnosed. This is not an ACL. This is obviously something vastly different from that. I guess the question I would ask is, where does it go from here? You have a player sitting there in front of his locker while everyone else is doing regular football stuff, and he's talking about how doctors were telling him to get his affairs in order. Where in the world does this go from here from a football standpoint?
Unless you can pinpoint exactly after all the facts come out, exactly where the breach of trust was, and you can really narrow it down and pinpoint it to, you know, some faction of the organization, and you feel as though Trent is still someone who you want on your football team, and you get rid of that part of the organization, then you have to descend. Then you have to go ahead and move him. You have to move him because right now it sounds like to me from his standpoint, it can't be recovered at all. Period. But that's part and parcel of what's going on with the Redskins anyway.
Many of us have been sitting here for the longest time saying, why didn't they do that before? There were teams out there that I have to believe would have given them a lot for a Pro Bowl left tackle.
They would have at the beginning of the year. Like, it doesn't make any sense, Greeny. They knew they were lying to themselves if they thought they were going to be able to go on a run and be 5-2 like they were last season. They should have parted with him, got some assets. You have a young quarterback in Bill, but that just speaks to the overall dysfunction from the top down of the Redskins about where they were and where they are as a franchise.
Yeah, Mark, you were in that locker room not long ago. I think a lot of us on the outside just look at that as just a complete dysfunctional mess. What's it like inside there?
I mean, Trent's one of those guys that everybody respects there. Like you said, 7 straight Pro Bowls, and I can tell you right now, those quarterbacks are really missing him out there. It's obvious on the field. It makes a coordinator's job a lot easier to call run plays and all that. So it's just it's a tough spot to be right now. But like you said, they told him to get his affairs in order. It just as an organization, they need to get things in order and all march in the same direction.
I think that's well said. Okay, so we have that situation, which is somewhat bizarre. Then this one, which is a lot more commonplace, but not particularly pretty. In Cleveland, quarterback Baker Mayfield continuing to come under fire for both his play on the field and some of the things that he says off it. The Browns, of course, are off to a disappointing 2-5 start. But yesterday, wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. came to the defense of his quarterback.
You can't sit here and say it's all on him. You know what I mean? We have to take a look at everything that's going on around him. And you know, and obviously he has to play better. I have to play better. Jarvis has to play better. Chubbs, we all have to do better. We all need to do better. You can't sit there and be like it's Baker's fault. Like, I feel like that's the easiest thing for us to do. And I've been in situations, you know, one person's getting the blame and the rest of the people are quiet, you know, just to kind of stay out of the fire. Like, I'm going to jump in the fire with them. I'll be the first one.
So here's what I want to ask you guys, because we've been talking about the Browns, it feels like at this point, for like 7 or 8 months, and certainly all week long with all of this. And the answer from everyone seems to be consistently, well, they need to stop talking. They need to stop talking. Whose job is it to get up there and say, guys, we're not going to talk anymore? Like, this is going to stop now, and we're going to focus on what we're actually supposed to be doing here. Who has the authority and the ability to get up in front of everyone and say, shut up?
Well, it starts with the head coach. I mean, we know that. But see, the head coach going all the way back to the offseason was one of the people who came off with that air of cockiness before they had even strapped it up and played a single game. Everybody in Cleveland was sitting there with their chest pumped out, going and listening to us talk about them, and and do those like mock schedules where we're sitting there picking games, and everybody's sitting. They started believing it. You could tell they started believing it. But now, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, where the rubber meets the road, when it met the road, they were nowhere to be found. This is a team that is mistake-ridden. This is a team that plays undisciplined. It's a team that isn't utilizing its players the way they should be utilized. And this is what happens. Look, everybody can put up with someone who has a big mouth when you're successful because you just go, what am I supposed to say? But you know what they're doing? They lay in the weeds waiting for you to start going downhill, and then everybody comes out and just boom. And that's what they're doing to this team, and that's what they're doing to Baker Mayfield in particular.
Everybody in the league was waiting for them to fail because there's a reason why in the NFL everybody acts a certain way. Because that's how winning teams, that's how winning franchises do it. The Cleveland Browns were trying to transition into that, and they didn't ignore the noise. They didn't manage expectations. 2 of the things you see the New England Patriots do all the time. But I will say this about Baker. The fact that Odell Beckham Jr. is having the season that he is having and the lack of production, and he is coming out and defending his quarterback. I played with a guy who may or may not have done sit-ups without a shirt on in his driveway, who at this point in time probably would have went after his quarterback because I'm not getting the ball enough. And that's the reason why we're losing. We did not hear that from Odell Beckham Jr. And so if there's any positive to take from it, that's the one.
I would just say they need one veteran voice. I really do wish it would have come from Baker in his early stages now to just fall on the sword and say, hey, we got to get better. It starts with me. And let's move on. Just one less soundbite, it would be my only advice. I've lived it here in New York, and you think it's hot in Freddy's kitchen? It was hot here, man. It was hot.
And they come after winning for the most part.
For the most part, early on. But when it goes south, sometimes less is more. And it's okay to just say, you know what, I got to play better. We got to take care of the football, and that starts with me. These guys, I love their attitude. Whatever you got to say, but just
never ends
move on.
Yeah,
just don't add to the fire.
It's always, I got to play better. And you know what? That's a stupid question and walk off the press conference and stuff. And then he said, well, I'm being authentic. Nobody cares about how authentic you are when you're getting drugged every week. No one cares. You better start winning. Otherwise, people are going to come after you more.
If there's a lesson in all of this, I think it's that in sports and in everything, like everything matters. Every little thing matters. And if when you're 2-5, everything you do isn't part of the solution, then whether you mean it to be or not, it's part of the problem. And they better get it turned around this week. They have a very winnable game this week. If they don't, we're going to be having a whole other conversation on Monday. Meanwhile, there's the disaster that is the New York Jets. Le'Veon Bell cleared the air with his head coach Adam Gase yesterday after he, Le'Veon, expressed frustration with his lack of involvement in the offense in the Jets' loss at Jacksonville this past Sunday. Here's what Bell told the media yesterday.
I expressed the way I felt, to Coach Gase and, things like that. We had a good little talk, because I just feel like, I want to be a main reason as to helping the team win. I don't like, not being used and, we end up losing the game. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like I couldn't really help my team out.
Here's where we are with the Jets. They have a young quarterback that they're clearly going to be building around going forward. And those of us who are fans of the team by no means have given up, I think. It would be a huge mistake to have given up on him at this point. But the questions are out there about the coach. The players don't seem to have any respect for him. You pointed out earlier he doesn't design an offense particularly well. That's supposed to be his specialty. But they basically handed the entire franchise to him and let him handpick his general manager, Joe Douglas. So the question is, where does the organization, sitting at 1-6, go from here?
That's a great question, Randy. That's a great question because what it sounds like is in some way, shape, or form, if they don't have some kind of miraculous turnaround, you're looking at another reset again in some way, shape, or someone's going to have to be blamed for it, and it's not going to be the owners. They're not going to sell the team and go, hey, it was our fault. We picked the wrong guy. They're going to look for someone. And what this sets up a very interesting dynamic because, as you just pointed out, Adam Gase was very instrumental in Joe Douglas being the general manager there. Now, Joe Douglas could absolutely just wash his hands of this whole thing right now and go, hey, look, all this mess was here before I even got here. I haven't done a thing yet. My work is yet to come in January. Is he going to be the one who gets called into Christopher Johnson's office and go, hey, you know what? I think the guy who hired me may not be best for this place. So this is getting weird, is what's going to happen here. And it's becoming like a soap opera, which is kind of become the norm with this team.
Green's used to that. Exactly. I mean, this is what you've been living through for the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades.
It's really informed what I said a minute ago, which is little things. If there's one thing I've learned from just observing all of this, and again, if you're young people who are watching this show right now, it extends to things well beyond football and sports. Like these little things that seem like little things, they matter. So when Le'Veon Bell, to the point you made earlier this morning, Mark, is sitting up there telling the world, I had this conversation with the coach about my role. Why does anyone need to know about that?
I mean, in my opinion, you don't. I understand he's not trying to break news or anything, but in this market, when you, like you said, the little things, you let any of that out and people run with it. So he's adjusting to being in a big market. And I think their expectations were a little unrealistic only because they signed some big splash players. Mosley's been out a bunch. They signed Le'Veon Bell. So everybody just expected them to be great. And they still have
part of that is they expected Adam Gase to be to create a good offense.
We've all see this really it ticks me off sometimes when we have these conversations only because of this fact. We all played football. Pop Warner, junior high, high school, college, pro. We all know this. When you start talking like this about your coach and saying that things aren't good in this, you don't respect him. You don't respect his ability to positively impact you. Otherwise, you wouldn't say this stuff.
You just go to his office.
Exactly. Because when you respect someone who's helping you become a better player, you toe the line, you are a team player, and everybody's good. You don't do these things. You just don't. So look, you can say whatever you want. We're in a new day and age where people speak their mind and people are individuals. BS. That's not how it works in team sports. This right here is indicative of a problem of the New York Jets, and I'm sorry, Greeny.
Don't be sorry to me.
They're heading for a reset again. I promise you, they're heading for a reset.
I mean, when was the last one? We just reset a year ago, and I mean, we're 1-6.
Well, I mean, I'm using that word only because you know what? Adam Gase used that word all the time when he was in Miami.
No, I get it. I hear you. He seems to reset a lot. He's very good at that. Okay, let's run the hurry up on some games from this Sunday that actually matter with teams that are actually playing. Vikings, Chiefs, an interesting one. Lewis, what are you watching?
Well, I'll tell you, with this right here, with the Minnesota Vikings, they're going to try and run it down the Chiefs' throat because that's what the Vikings do and that's what the Chiefs struggle with. And they have to come up with an answer because every team's going to play the ball control time of possession game with them and keep their offense off the field, no matter if Pat Mahomes is playing or not. They have to come up with an answer to this. The defensive line has to play better. The linebackers have to really pick it up. The safeties are going to have to tackle. And if they don't, every team it's going to be repeat every week for the Chiefs.
Sanchez, defense. Patriots, Ravens, a great one on Sunday night. What are you watching?
You can't stop watching this Patriots defense, and sometimes that's their best offense. I mean, they take the ball away more than anybody in the league. They are so strong right now on defense, and the offense just has to play complementary football. And we're talking about Tom Brady, one of the best to ever do it. It's not the sexiest form of their offense, but it's great. And then they got to keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket. Silo him in the pocket. If he does get out, make sure it's just to one side, like Jonathan Vilma always says, so their DBs know exactly where he's going to go and eliminate some of those big splash plays.
Bobby, Bears, Eagles, what are you watching?
I'm going to watch Carson Wentz look to get back on track last week against a really good defense in Buffalo. He's been throwing the ball with accuracy. Looks like he's getting the ball, has some poise, and he's playing a Bears defense that, as good as they are, it's a real anomaly, the fact that they struggle defending play-action passes. They're one of the worst in the NFL at it, and it doesn't really make much sense. But let's not forget, Vic Fangio is no longer there. It's Chuck Pagano. There's going to be some little tweaks, and maybe this defense is great, but just not quite as good as they were a year ago.
It's a critical game in the NFC. We have much more coming on this Football Friday, including should the Chiefs play Patrick Mahomes on Sunday? It's a decision that could very well be remembered in January. We will talk about that because it's significant on a variety of levels. Then, Charles Barkley called it a snuggle party, but the NBA wasn't laughing. The league comes down on Embiid and Towns. Did the punishment fit the crime? We'll answer those questions and more. Get up on ESPN.